Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. So let's do an update on Christopher Watts. Now, this is going to be about where he's been moved to, his forever home, the state of his home, and the estate in Frederick, Colorado. And along with that, I'm going to answer questions that have been coming up over and over again in the comment section here, along with comments that have been made on Twitter and on over on the Dumpster Fire Facebook on my page over there. So let's start with the first thing. Where has Christopher Watts been moved to? He has been moved to the Dodge Correctional Institution in Wisconsin. He is there, and for now, temporarily, they have not decided if he will spend the rest of his life there. He very well could end up spending the rest of his life there. That is an intake center where they evaluate and make sure that the inmate is all right. And apparently, he got a little sick on the plane flight there. So for the first 48 hours that he was there, he was receiving treatment. So he was held in a separate area by himself, well, not by himself, but there are other inmates there who are receiving medical attention. But he has since been released from that holding area, which all within the same area itself. And he is now in a pod. Now, I don't know if you've seen the HBO series Making of a Murderer, but he is now in the same exact pod as that gentleman. So who knows? Maybe Christopher Watts will make a new friend. So that's where he's at. Next question. So I'm reading these off of cue cards. I wrote them down. I can't exactly be pulling up the comment sections, all three of them. Next question was, and I'll address it now. Is what was his classification that he was given? Was he given the Supermax label? No, he wasn't given Supermax or Max. He was actually given level 4. There's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and he was given 4, which is high security and not much of a flight risk, but high security. So, okay, now let's get back to put the cards down for a minute here, and I'll tell you about his home and his estate that he had with Shannon and Bella and Cece. So before the actual trial began, and before and the plea agreement was entered, he had already. This wasn't widely publicized in the news, but he had agreed to through the DA and his attorney to allow the roost checks to come and remove personal items from the home, and Frank and his son Junior did go and remove personal items from the home. Now, when I say personal items, I'm talking about photos of the family, photo albums, personal items that that were dear to the children, items that were personal and belonged to Shannon's clothing, Bella's and Cece's clothing, their stuffed animals. These items, along with a bedroom set, was taken from the home and by Frank and his son. Those items have been removed. All right. Since Christopher Watts put in the plea agreement, he has since, before he left from the Weld County Jail and went to the Denver Diagnostic Center, before he left, he signed an agreement with, along with Frank and his father. So the three of them signed the agreement together, and it's a very standard form, and it's nothing special. All it was just releasing his interest in the property that is within the home, saying that the items may be removed from the home and then put into storage. If he has the means to pay for storage, or if Frank decides he wants to remove all the items from the home and all of Chris's items as well, to empty out the home, he can. Or they can assign a third party agent to remove all the personal effects from the home. He signed this. It's very standard, especially, and it's actually almost a form. And all you do is fill in the names, like the person, and then down at the bottom you release the personal effects to this person, and give additional instructions. And then page 2 is where everybody who is a witness there signs it. Standard form. Nothing out of the ordinary there, and that's most likely why it wasn't reported on in the news. But that agreement has taken place. Now, I do not know as of today that I'm shooting this video on December 10th. I don't know if the items have been removed from the home yet. I do believe they have been, and I think that and from what I understand, I can't confirm this though. So it's not rumor though, but I can't confirm this though. Is that Frank Rishik and Christopher Watts' dad both have decided to go through a third party to dispose of the rest of the property that it was in the home. That's what I understand, but I can't confirm that though, and nor can I confirm that they actually went in and removed the items from the home so far. Okay, excuse me, got a scratchy throat today. Allergies. So let's talk about the car. Shannon's white Lexus that she had a budget through her work of $800 a month to pay for car payments, and it was a leased car. There was no equity in the lease of that car, and that car was taken away. Instead of it going back to the leasing company, who could then put it back on, cleaned it up, and then put it on the lot and had somebody else lease it, it was considered too old of an inventory for them, so they sent it off to auction. Now, in the comments section here on YouTube, I had put a link to the to the auction site that was actually auctioning it off. They did auction it off. The car was sold pending approval from the lien holder on it, which was the dealership and their finance company. They did approve it, and the car has been sold and it is gone. Now, I had made the comment that there were 2 cars that were taken from the Watts family home besides the truck, and I based that on the police report and the inventory sheet that the tow truck driver signed and gave to the Frederick Police Department and detective. There was the uniform officer and a detective there, and he handed the form to them at the tow yard, not in front of the house, but when he got the vehicle or vehicles there. According to that inventory sheet, there were 2 vehicles, a gray color SUV Honda. I do believe it was a Pilot, and but I'm not exactly sure on that. And then Shannon's white Lexus. That is it. They were given the following inventory numbers back to back. So let me read those to you. Sorry. The inventory 11-1412A6 and A7. 2 cars brought in by the same tow truck driver, and both of them were written up as Watts' name was on both sheets, so you have 2 sheets side by side. Watts, the address are the same. Inventory numbers are concurrent in the series, and they were brought in and they were sold, and they were inventoried and then they were sold. The items that were inside were taken out, removed. Personal items that were inside the vehicles were removed, and then inventoried Watts. Now the detectives in the murder investigation had already gone through Shannon's Lexus and his truck. Now, I based my statement that there were 2 vehicles taken from the home because of that report that from the tow truck driver and from what was inventoried. If I'm wrong, if there was not a gray Honda Pilot, then somebody out there is probably going to be suing that tow company along with the auction company because they sold 2 cars off as being property of the Watts. So I guess mistakes do happen, but that based it on actual evidence and facts that I was able to discover in the case. Okay, what happened to his truck? The truck belonged to the oil company, and they received the key and remote start key bob thing from the actual detectives who handed the keys back. Battery low. To the oil company, and the oil company sent a representative to their home, retrieved the truck, and took it away. So they got their actual property back. What they decided to do with it is, who cares? They're almost indistinguishable. They have so many of them in the fleet of vehicles. So it isn't like anybody's going to be checking out a truck tomorrow, who works for the oil company. Go, oh my God, this one belonged to, was being used by Christopher Watts. He never had the same vehicle for any long period of time. He'd have it for a couple months, and then he'd bring it back in, and they'd do service on it, and then he'd get another one. They're fleet vehicles, so they're indistinguishable, and they all have GPS because it's built in. It comes standard on all the vehicles. So that's where that is on that. On those, again, now back to questions that have been asked here and then on other social media. Can you explain the red car that is seen on the CCTV at the home? Got that one quite a few times, 16 times. Red car. The red car did not belong to Nicole. I can tell you that right off the bat. Whose car it is, I have no idea, and it doesn't really matter, does it? I get exactly where you're going from this. At least the last couple of people who asked it, because they were trying to figure out if Nicole was there the more he killed the girls, and if she had something else to do with it. And no, Nicole did not own a red car. She still doesn't own a red car. She owns 2 vehicles, and neither one of them are red. Her main driving car is a gray Toyota pickup truck with a canopy on the back. Very distinguishable, raised a little bit. It's a nice looking truck for a Toyota small truck, not a full size like Tundra, but the smaller, older version. And her other car is white. So to answer your question, I don't know whose red car it is, and I'm sure there's somebody else in the neighborhood. People come and go at that hour all the time, to and from work. You have to remember his house is, at where the Watts home was, is pretty good access. It's a little bit of a drive, but it's close to the freeway too. Can you explain or talk about the Nicole's cell phone pinging off the cellular tower in Frederick? Yes. I know exactly where these comments came from. I'm not going to dignify the YouTuber who made these original allegations, nor am I going to give her credit for it. And it is I'll just say that it's completely wrong of her to make an accusation that the pinging of Nicole's cell phone off a tower in Frederick somehow means that she was in Frederick that morning. Now remember, there's a freeway that runs with, I think it's like not even 2 miles from, near the Watts home. And the tower that is in question, if it did ping off a tower in Frederick, is 16 miles from the Watts home. There is no tower in the rich residential area. Trust me, when you go out to any high-end residential area in your city, try to find a cellular tower in a rich part of town. They don't put them there because they're an eyesore and they put them up in poorer and middle class communities. They don't put them up in rich areas. Now, how do cell towers work? They work like this. You have your cell phone out, okay? You're making a call. It sends out a signal. It bounces off a tower, and if you're traveling in that direction, it tries to send the message ahead of you, the signal ahead of you, so you keep your signal band as you're going along. Otherwise, we'd all have to stand in one spot next to a tower to use our cell phones. And if her cell phone actually pinged off a tower in Frederick, which I have no basis for to support that at all, no documentation, and like I said, I know where the rumors started from, but if it did, it's 16 miles from the Watts home. It's on. So here's the Watts home here. All right, imagine it be right here. Here's the freeway, all the way that way, 16 miles on the other side of town, is where the cell tower is. So I hope that I was able to answer some of the questions that you have today. So let's talk about briefly what he eats and his commissary. A lot of people are interested in his commissary. So, all right. Typical breakfast. Typical breakfast for Mr. Watts that is served from the cafeteria, regardless if he is on lockdown or not. If it's in lockdown, they bring the meals to them to their actual cell, but it's the same meal. Typical breakfast. And all these photos are examples only. There are no actual photos from the Dodge Correctional Institution of any food. They've never let reporters into the kitchen. Typical breakfast: scrambled eggs, white toast or wheat toast, and either a juice or milk. And before you think, ooh, yummy, a glass of milk, this is powdered milk that is really watered down. They do not get milk like you'd get in the grocery store. It's powdered milk. Well, I guess you could buy powdered milk in the store. Another option for breakfast that is pretty common is biscuits and gravy. One ladle of gravy, 2 biscuits that are described as hard as a hockey puck by other inmates, and fruit cocktail, and again, either juice or milk. Now, I got to tell you about the little side note on juice. According to former inmates who worked in the kitchen there, the juice is a combination of anything. It can be grape juice, orange juice, lemonade, fruit cocktail punch, all dumped into one and then served. Whatever's cheapest and whatever is available. So it never gets much better than that. And then they add a lot more water to it than what should be. It comes in a concentrated form, and then they add water to it. All right, next. Typical lunches are either hot dogs or bologna sandwiches, 2 bologna sandwiches. Basically, it's 4 pieces of bread, 2 slices of bologna, no cheese, no condiments at all. If the inmates want condiments for their hot dogs or they want condiments for their corn dogs, they do serve corn dogs without the stick. So basically, it's a hot dog in batter and then fried. If they want condiments, they can buy them off of the commissary. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Or it's 4 slices of bread, a dollop of peanut butter, and a dollop of like a marmalade on each, or grape jelly. So that's their lunch, along with a bag of Fritos or a bag of chips, and then juice or milk again. The milk or juice is pretty much common for every meal. Another common lunch item is, like I said, the corn dogs minus the stick, and they will get that with a small amount of French fries, which is basically like a McDonald's small fry. They will get that with fruit cocktail or mixed chopped vegetables. And according to what I read from former inmates, again, is that the mixed vegetables is a combination of broccoli stems, carrots, and peas, and it's usually way overcooked and it's mush. So nothing to write home about. It's something that also to be note about the meals that are served at the Dog Correctional Institution. There is no vegetarian option. There is your standard meal, and then they have a kosher meal, but the kosher meal and the halal meal, I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, are one and the same. It's you get one option or the other, and you have to be on a dietary plan in order to get that. Like I was saying in the about when he was at Weld County Jail, he has to be either Jewish or he has to be Islamic to get one of those meals. He can convert to religion, but he ain't gonna get it right away. Excuse me, I have a scratchy throat today. So dinners, they have quite a few different options of dinners. He doesn't get a choice. So when the meal is served, they serve the same meal to every single inmate. It's never like, oh, you know what? I feel like I want the roast beef today, and tomorrow I'll have the lobster. They don't get those options. They never, it's this is what's being served. You either eat it or you don't. But they have a meal that they call meatloaf, but I wouldn't really call it meatloaf. It's I saw the recipe for it, and it actually calls for leftovers to be blended into the meatloaf. So apparently they have their own factory like cooking there. So they have these giant mixers. They dump all the beef in, and then they throw in stale bread, liquid eggs that come in a big plastic bag. They dump that in there. Then there is salt added to it, but then anything and everything that's left over. If one of the meals prior to that was sloppy joes, they dump that in there. If they have extra carrots or vegetables left over from another meal, that goes in there. Anything and everything to stretch the meal out so they can make more of it for less. And then it's slopped onto big sheet trays, and then it's baked, and then it's cut into portions, and then served. But they do the same thing when they make bread. They make bread on big sheet trays, and nobody wants the center pieces. They all want the edge pieces. Apparently, that's where it's actually cooked, and some of the inner middle parts could be not quite cooked when it comes to breads. So, but again, they have a actual staff in the kitchen, but the inmates are who actually cook the meals. So the meatloaf is a common one. They have a burger that they serve as well, but they serve it with the side on that is chopped potatoes, kind of like a home potato mix with minced onions in it. And if they don't have that, they serve it with mashed potatoes and one little square of butter or margarine. Yes, in the state of Wisconsin, the dairy state, they allow margarine in the prison. That foul ass crap is not, I wouldn't allow it in my grocery store there, but they allow it there in the prisons. But there's a whole list of different meals, but the meals, and interestingly though, what he is being served is the price point is actually cheaper than what he was actually getting meals for in the Weld County Jail. So the most expensive meal of the day is a dinner, and it is $1.72. Otherwise, they keep every single meal right at about $1.20 to $1.27 per inmate. All right, let's talk about commissary. So, not right away, but eventually down the road, they usually take some time for an inmate once they get to their forever home. to be get acclimated to the area, learn the system, learn where everything is, and then they can apply for certain jobs within the penitentiary. Um, in Wisconsin, there are different types of jobs. There are jobs that are low end, and then there are jobs that are low end. When I mean low end, I mean low amount of security needed for that inmate. Those jobs are totally off the table for Chris. He is never going to get one of those jobs. He might be there 35 years and still be alive and be an old man. He'll never get one. He's always going to be high security within the prison system, so those jobs are off the table. So basic jobs, doing janitorial work, working in the library. He could get a job working in the kitchen. So this is going to be after the new year. They pay them between 9 cents and 42 cents an hour. So that's about 72 cents to $3.36 a day is what he could earn. And 60% of whatever he earns that is put into his inmate account is going to be garnished. He's going to lose 60% of whatever goes in there immediately before he ever gets a chance to spend it on anything. All right. They also have at the Dodge Correctional Institution, they have what are called state jobs. This is where a state contract is, and they have actual prison laborers doing jobs for the state there. In some cases, it's telemarketing and calling people to remind them that the voters it's time to vote, or that your tabs are going to expire. Low end jobs like that. Not a lot of security needed for them, and all they're given is just a phone number, and they call, and it's all been it's all screened. But he could get one of those jobs that are 9 cents to 42 cents an hour jobs, and 60% of that is taken right away before he ever sees it. All right, now, what do things on the commissary cost? Well, a bag of Fritos costs $3.85. Candy bars are $1.50 to $3.50. A pack of gum is $1 to $2.75. Salsa is $2.65 to $3.50. They have pickles. They're called hot pickles, and then just regular dill pickles. Those are $3.50 a piece. Ramen, $2 for 4. So, what does basic necessities that he needs? They cannot restrict him from getting, even if he works and he doesn't have enough money. They have to allow him to have basic necessities like soap and the ability to keep himself clean. And I know I'll get to the rest of your comments in a minute here. So a bar of soap, Irish Spring, generic Irish Spring, it's not actually the same name brand, is $3.50 for a bar of soap. Shaving lotion is $2.50 for a 10-ounce can. Razors, they do not give them actual razors, for shaving. They give them disposables, and then they check it in and out from the actual guard when they want to use them. They're not allowed to keep them in their cells if you're high security. Now, medium, and lower end inmates in the prison, they have more flexibility, and they can walk around. They're more free to move about the prison. Not Chris. He is high security. He will be restricted. But again, he can, still earn money, and he still has the right to commissary. Commissary is once every 2 weeks, and the way it works is they give him a sheet, and then he puts down a number next to whatever he wants, and then there's a price next to it, and it says, okay, this one costs this. But it also, when he gets his commissary sheet, they tell him exactly what his balance is in his prison inmate account. And so there is no commissary account and then, inmate account. It's all one thing. They just deduct it from one account. He can get donations from his fan club, and they could put money on his books if they're approved to do so. And again, 60% of that would be taken right off the bat. So it doesn't matter if he earns it or however it gets there. 60% of it is gone right away. So if somebody donates $100 to him, 60% of that $100 is taken right off the bat. If Frank Rusick is successful in his civil suit against him, he will take his entire 401k, and that will leave about $30,000 that is still owing to Frank Rusick. And he will be first in line before the state of Colorado redeems any money for the court costs or incarceration costs while he was there. Next in line, third line, would be anything that was not covered by the insurance and donations from people from the actual oil company. Several people from the actual oil company donated money to help offset the funeral costs for Shanann and the girls. So a portion of that was paid along with insurance that the oil company had for Shanann and for the girls. And then the Rusicks also chipped in money to cover the rest of the cost. But that the money, the $100,000 that Frank Rusick is getting, he cannot seek any more than that $100,000. So he has to include in there the cost of all the money that he outlaid for the funerals or whatever his family did. So, but he's capped at $100,000. So it's not like $100,000 plus the $60,000 that he spent on funerals. It's $100,000 total is all he's ever going to get out of Christopher Watts. Sad, but that's the actual fact. And if at 9 cents an hour, if he gets that job, I mean, in 30 years he could be making $1.25 an hour. If he gets the same job and he lives that long. All right, so I want to make a little statement here. This is my opinion and my opinion only, and then I'm going to leave it on that. Now, in the comment section here on YouTube and on Twitter and on Dumpster Fire Facebook, I have seen the comments quite a few times, and that I've tried to ignore them and not really reply to them about wanting to feed either glass to Christopher Watts, feed him rat poison, human feces, dog food, or something like that. In that effect. And that's all he deserves, is that. I want you to understand the following. The Constitution and the rights that he has to be treated like a human being and be treated with dignity, even after his deplorable act of what he did, those rights that he has are the same rights that you have and I have. If we cannot pick and choose who within our society and our nation we allow to have rights and who we do not allow to have rights. We are all born under this country, and we are all to be treated equal. And that is part of the Constitution. It doesn't say that if you kill your family and you commit an absolutely deplorable act in the eyes of human beings, all humans, that we strip you of your rights. Because that is not who we are. And you need to consider this and think about this before you make the next comment about feeding him dog, feces or whatever. That if we treat him any less than give him the human dignity to be treated as a human being, what does it say about you, and what does it say about me as human beings? He has rights, and I'm going to leave it there. All right. Flame me in the comment section if you want, but I needed to speak my opinion on that. We have rights as human beings, and we need to be treated that way, even if someone commits in a deplorable, senseless act like he did. Thank you. Have you heard of Patreon? Patreon is a way for viewers and subscribers to support the creators who make these videos on YouTube. Without the support on Patreon and other ways of supporting the channel, most of the channels on YouTube will not succeed or be around for very long. And I'm one of those channels. I need your support. You can go over to Patreon and become a patron of mine and get your name in the credits of every single video for for the next month. Or you can go over to my fan gear store and purchase an actual physical item. I offer everything from mugs to hats, t-shirts, sweaters. If you have the time and you want to kick a couple bucks our way to help keep this channel rolling in the future, I need your support today.